We've been praying for baby Emmanuel Haro. For those who don't know, Emmanuel went missing in August 2025, and the search has been ongoing. But today, we have some shocking updates that no one expected. His parents, Jake and Rebecca Haro, were arrested early this morning accused of his murder. So where is Emmanuel? Let's break down what we know so far. Before start our video, I will request kindly subscribe and press bell icon for next video update. On August 2025, a seemingly ordinary day turned into a nightmare for the Haro family. Rebecca Haro, a mother to a 7-month-old boy named Emmanuel, reported that her child had been abducted in the most tragic and unexpected way. She claimed she had parked in a shopping center parking lot in Yucaipa, California, to change her baby's diaper. But when she returned to the car, little Emmanuel was gone. His car seat was empty, the doors were locked, and no sign of him remained. At first, it seemed like an innocent case of abduction, the kind that grabs headlines and leads to widespread public concern. Everyone sympathized with Rebecca, hoping for the safe return of her son. The authorities swiftly launched a full-blown search, enlisting the help of the community and social media. The world watched as the search unfolded, and the authorities worked tirelessly to track down leads. But as days passed, cracks in Rebecca's story began to emerge. It wasn't long before investigators uncovered inconsistencies in her statements. How could Emmanuel, who was still so young, have vanished without a trace from a locked car in the middle of a busy parking lot? Was there more to the story than met the eye? Authorities began questioning Rebecca's timeline, and they started to dig deeper into her history and her relationship with Jake Haro, Emmanuel's father. What they uncovered would turn the entire investigation in a completely different direction, leaving more questions than answers. By the morning of August 22, 2025, everything had changed. The investigation, which started as a search for a missing child, had now evolved into something far darker. Jake and Rebecca Haro were arrested at their home in Cabazon, California, just a short time after the authorities learned of significant inconsistencies in Rebecca's version of the events. The arrest shook the community. The couple, once seen as the grieving parents of a missing child, were now facing murder charges. The details that led to their arrest were disturbing. Investigators pieced together a timeline that didn't align with Rebecca's story. For instance, the location where Rebecca had claimed Emmanuel was abducted didn't have the security footage they expected. That, coupled with Rebecca's failure to report critical details, raised suspicions of deliberate deception. Something wasn't adding up, and the truth began to slowly emerge. Rebecca's reaction was telling. Her demeanor seemed almost too calm, as though she had rehearsed the story of her child's disappearance. Was she hiding something? What were the true motivations behind her actions? And Jake, was he complicit, or was he just as much of a victim in this twisted drama? As the arrest was made, a whirlwind of emotions ran through the community. Some people felt relief, believing that the truth was finally coming to light. Others were shocked. How could a parent, someone entrusted with the care of a vulnerable child, be capable of such unimaginable harm? The authorities made it clear that this was only the beginning of their investigation. They had the couple in custody, but they still didn't have the one thing that could bring the case to a close: baby Emmanuel. Where was he? Was he still out there, somewhere waiting to be found? Or was the nightmare already over? Rumors began circulating that Emmanuel's body had been found in Perry Lake, a nearby area. Was this true? Was the case about to take a gruesome turn? Investigators weren't ready to confirm anything yet. They were still digging, still questioning. The truth was still buried under layers of secrets, lies, and deception, and the community, already heartbroken and torn, could only wait and pray for the reality of the situation to finally unfold. In the midst of all this, the question that everyone was asking was simple: where was Emmanuel? His disappearance had now spiraled into a much larger, far more sinister mystery. Was he ever truly missing? Or had something far more horrible occurred behind closed doors? As the investigation intensified, it became clear that the search for Emmanuel was not just about finding a missing child. It was about uncovering the dark truth that had been hidden from the world for far too long. As the days went on, whispers began circulating, fueling a firestorm of rumors. In a case already filled with uncertainty, these rumors quickly spread across social media and into the ears of the public. The most disturbing of all, the possibility that baby Emmanuel's body had been found. But where? And was it truly him? Some reports pointed to Perry Lake, a remote area just outside of town, where rumors suggested that something had been discovered. Could this be the break everyone had been waiting for? The authorities had yet to confirm anything, but as one unsettling rumor after another surfaced, the tension in the community reached a boiling point. Was Emmanuel's body really found? Or were people grasping at straws in a desperate attempt for closure? Investigators remained tight-lipped, reminding the public that no official confirmation had been made. The rumors continued to swirl, and with each passing hour, more speculation emerged. It was as if the weight of the unknown was becoming unbearable for everyone involved. Was the truth finally within reach, or was it just another false hope? Despite the rumors, one thing was clear: Emmanuel's fate was still hanging in the balance. As the search for answers intensified, the authorities shifted their focus to piecing together the final pieces of this tragic puzzle. If Emmanuel's body had truly been found, it would change everything. No longer would this be a case of a missing child, but one of unspeakable loss. Could the parents have been involved? Had Jake and Rebecca Haro known more than they let on? The public's desire for justice was palpable, with each passing day driving home the truth that baby Emmanuel deserved answers. As the rumors grew, so did the pressure on the authorities to uncover the truth. But in the end, it was clear that no rumor could replace the one thing everyone truly needed: facts. The search for Emmanuel was not just about finding his body. It was about uncovering the dark truths that had been hidden beneath layers of lies and deceit. When the Haro couple was arrested on August 22nd, the public's reaction was swift and unforgiving. Outrage rippled through the community, spreading like wildfire as the truth about Emmanuel's disappearance and the possible involvement of his own parents slowly came to light. At first, it was difficult to grasp. Jake and Rebecca Haro, a couple who had once been viewed as the grieving parents of a missing child, were now under suspicion of murder. The confusion and disbelief were palpable. How could a mother and father, who were supposed to protect and love their child, be capable of such unspeakable cruelty? How could they have hurt their own flesh and blood? Social media exploded with emotion, with people demanding justice for Emmanuel. Calls for accountability echoed across platforms. People who had followed the case since the beginning now felt betrayed by the very parents who had reported the child missing. The question that remained was simple: how could this happen? As details of the investigation emerged, the shock turned to anger. Rebecca's initial statement that Emmanuel was taken while she was changing his diaper in the parking lot didn't add up. What had once seemed like an innocent case of abduction was now spiraling into a tragedy that was too difficult to comprehend. Rebecca and Jake had been arrested, but the truth about Emmanuel's fate was still shrouded in mystery. In the aftermath of their arrests, public reaction turned from confusion to condemnation. How had they gotten away with this for so long? How had they manipulated the system into believing their lie? What kind of parents could do such a thing? The questions piled up, and with each new revelation, the outrage only grew. The community, once sympathetic to the Haros, now stood firmly on the side of justice for Emmanuel. The media coverage of the arrest was intense. News outlets picked up the story, amplifying the voices of the public and the call for justice. People didn't just want the truth about Emmanuel, they wanted those responsible to be held accountable. The growing anger and frustration in the community made it clear the Haros couldn't just walk away from this. There was no escaping the gravity of what had happened. The case had now transcended one family's tragedy. It had become a symbol of how easily children could be failed by the system. Justice for Emmanuel wasn't just a legal issue, it was a moral imperative. And as the investigation unfolded, it was clear that everyone wanted one thing: to see those responsible for Emmanuel's suffering brought to justice. The arrests were only the beginning. What would come next was more than just a trial. It was the beginning of a movement for children's rights, for reform, and for the protection of those who are too young to protect themselves. It was a battle for truth, and the fight for Emmanuel had only just begun. The arrest of Jake and Rebecca Haro marked a pivotal moment in the case, but it did not bring an end to the search for baby Emmanuel. Despite the parents' arrest on charges of murder, one crucial question remained. Where was Emmanuel? Was he truly gone, or was there still hope that he might be found alive? The search was not over. Authorities were still looking, and every piece of evidence brought the investigation closer to the truth. As investigators continued to sift through the Haros's property, their focus shifted to the many suspicious leads that had emerged. Forensic teams combed through the yard, while cadaver dogs were brought in to search the surrounding areas. Was there something hidden in the backyard, something the Haros had tried to cover up? The presence of garbage bags, broken fences, and items that might be linked to the crime raised further suspicions. But as the search continued, there was a gnawing sense of urgency in the air. Every hour that passed without finding Emmanuel meant more time for the truth to slip further away. Hope began to feel fragile. Was the baby out there somewhere? Or had the Haros already disposed of him in the most horrific way? The police had been led to a deep freezer in the yard, but it was unclear whether this was linked to Emmanuel's disappearance. Some believed it was just another piece of evidence that would bring them closer to answers, while others feared that they were facing the grim reality of a child's life lost too soon. With each day, it became clearer that the investigation was leading in a dark direction. But the search for Emmanuel had to continue. Every lead needed to be followed, no matter how grim the prospects became. The authorities weren't giving up on Emmanuel, even if the case seemed to be spiraling into a cold, painful conclusion. And so the community waited with bated breath, hoping for a breakthrough. Would Emmanuel's body be discovered, or was there still a chance that he might be found alive? The investigation continued with persistence, but the road ahead was uncertain, filled with both hope and despair in equal measure. As the investigation into the Haro case deepened, it became evident that this wasn't just about a single tragic event, it was about a systemic failure. Emmanuel Haro's story was now shining a harsh light on the flaws in the child protection system, and the case was raising questions that no one could ignore. How many other children were suffering in silence because the system failed to act? In time, how many cases were dismissed or mishandled because of bureaucratic red tape or lack of proper resources? How many more children needed to be saved before things changed? These were the questions echoing through the hearts and minds of people following the case. The tragedy of Emmanuel Haro was a painful reminder of just how easily children could fall through the cracks. In the past, families like the Haros had slipped under the radar of social services and law enforcement, allowed to continue without intervention until it was too late. How many warning signs had been missed? How many others had already been harmed and were now at risk of being forgotten? This case was not just about bringing Jake and Rebecca Haro to trial. It was about facing the truth that the system was broken and needed to be fixed. A collective call for reform was rising, and people were demanding that child protection laws be strengthened and better enforced. Early intervention and preventative measures needed to be prioritized so that other children wouldn't have to suffer the same fate as Emmanuel. The case had already revealed the dark side of parenting, how easily people could manipulate systems meant to protect children. But it also revealed how critical it was for the community to stay vigilant, to speak up when they see something wrong, and to never allow any child to slip through the cracks. It was a wake-up call for everyone who had a role to play in protecting children, from law enforcement to social services to the community itself. Emmanuel's case was not just a reminder of a horrific personal tragedy, but a signal for societal change. Children's voices needed to be heard, their protection needed to be prioritized, and the community as a whole had to take a stronger stance on ensuring that justice for vulnerable children wasn't just a hope, it was a reality. As we near the end of this painful and heart-wrenching story, we cannot forget what has happened. The case of Emmanuel Haro has sparked a fire within us all, a fire that will not die down until justice is served. While the investigation continues and the fight for justice remains in full force, Emmanuel's story is far from over. His legacy will not be one of sadness alone. It will be one of change, of hope, and of a fierce demand for action. The road ahead is still filled with uncertainty. We don't yet know the full truth of what happened to Emmanuel. The parents are in custody, charged with his murder, but his body still hasn't been found. Every new lead, every new piece of information brings us closer to understanding what happened, but we are not there yet. The truth is out there, and we are all waiting for it to unfold, even if it comes with devastating consequences. Emmanuel Haro's death is a tragedy, but it is also a call to action. As the community mourns his loss, it is clear that his legacy will change the way we look at child protection laws. This case has highlighted the systemic flaws that allowed a child like Emmanuel to be put in harm's way, and now is the time to ensure that future generations of children are better protected. His life and his death are the catalysts for reform, but beyond the legal reforms and the calls for justice, there is one crucial thing Emmanuel's story has shown us all: the power of community, the outpouring of support, the voices of concern, and the collective efforts of people demanding justice have shown us the strength of unity. Whether it was people sharing information on social media, praying for Emmanuel, or speaking out against child abuse, the community has played a vital role in keeping his memory alive and ensuring that his voice, though silent, will never be forgotten. As we reflect on the case, let us remember Emmanuel, not just for the tragic circumstances surrounding his life, but for the change he inspired. We cannot undo what has been done, but we can ensure that Emmanuel's story becomes a turning point in the fight for child protection. His life and the injustice done to him will not be in vain. Emmanuel's legacy is a legacy of justice. It is a reminder that we, as a society, must do more to protect the most vulnerable among us. We cannot look the other way, hoping someone else will step in. We all have a role to play, whether it's in advocating for change, raising awareness, or ensuring that no other child suffers the way Emmanuel did. As we turn the page on the story of Emmanuel Haro, we are faced with the daunting yet necessary task of ensuring that his story doesn't fade into the background as another statistic. Emmanuel's case is not just a heartbreaking tragedy, it is the spark that will ignite a revolution of change. As a society, we must ask ourselves, what kind of world are we building for the next generation? Will it be one where children are protected and heard, or one where the most vulnerable remain at the mercy of neglect and abuse. The case of Emmanuel Haro has revealed the many cracks in our child welfare system, and it has illuminated the dangers of complacency. It has reminded us that we cannot afford to be passive bystanders. Every child deserves a voice. Every child deserves a safe home, and we must demand that those who harm children be held accountable. As painful as it is to acknowledge, Emmanuel's story is just one among many that have slipped through the cracks, unnoticed and unanswered. How many other Emmanuels are out there? Silent victims whose cries for help go unheard, whose suffering is ignored until it's too late. This is the uncomfortable truth that Emmanuel's case forces us to face. But it also presents an opportunity for change, a chance to reimagine how we protect and care for children, not just in words, but through action. The pain of Emmanuel's loss cannot be erased, but it can drive us forward to create a system that truly serves and protects the most innocent. From the police officers to the social workers to every single person in the community, we all play a part in keeping children safe. It is time to ask hard questions and demand real solutions. How can we make sure that every child in our care is safe, nurtured, and protected? How can we hold those accountable who turn a blind eye to child abuse? This isn't just about one child, it's about every child who will come after him. Emmanuel's legacy must be one of action and reform. He will be remembered not just as the boy who was tragically taken from this world too soon, but as the boy who changed the world, the boy who lit a fire under our feet, and whose story will never be forgotten. While Emmanuel's journey may have ended, our journey towards justice for him and children like him is only just beginning. This is our call to action. The time to be complacent has passed. The time for change is now. As we continue to follow the developments in this case, let us keep Emmanuel's memory alive, not just in our thoughts, but in every action we take. This means demanding more from the authorities, holding them accountable for the safety and well-being of children. This means raising awareness and ensuring that we, as a society, no longer turn a blind eye to child abuse and neglect. Every child deserves to be protected. Every child deserves a voice, and we have a moral obligation to ensure that they are never left to suffer in silence again. If there is one thing that Emmanuel Haro's case has taught us, it's this: justice cannot be passive. It's this: justice cannot be passive. It requires active participation from every single one of us, whether it's in advocating for stronger child protection laws, supporting organizations that work tirelessly to protect children, or simply speaking out when we see something wrong. The change we want to see starts with us, and it starts now, so let's not wait until it's too late. Let's act now, not just for Emmanuel, but for every child whose voice has yet to be heard. Let's make sure that no child ever suffers like this again. Emmanuel Haro's death is tragic, but it will fuel the fight for justice, and it will serve as the foundation for the reform we so desperately need. His story is one that will change the world, and it is our responsibility to ensure that his legacy leads to a safer future for all children.